Hey guys, Denise Salcedo here for A-List. Every decade is defined differently. We have the short-haired flappers that rocked the 1920s, poodle skirts in the 50s, hippies in the 70s, and the Madonna wannabes in the 80s. But did you ever wonder which movies made the biggest bucks by decade? What was trending at the time, and does it match their fashion and lifestyle choices? Let's find out. The 1920s were a time for booze and jazz. I mean, we've all seen Chicago, right? And World War I had just come to an end and people were picking themselves back up again, so it's probably no wonder that The Big Parade in 1925 was such a huge hit. The film stars John Gilbert and Renee Adoree and follows the life of a rich man's son, James Apperson, who joins the army when the United States joins World War I. James befriends two working-class soldiers, falls in love with a French woman, and experiences some of life's most horrifying moments that change him forever. The Big Parade grossed $11 million nationwide and $22 million worldwide in its opening week. Next, we have the 1930s, the era known as the Great Depression. With worldwide economic downfalls, which movie was worth a hard-working man's dollar? It would be the 1939 classic Gone with the Wind, starring Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh. The film brought in $20 million nationwide, and let it be known that it has made millions more over the year it has been reissued. Now we have the 1940s, with World War II making constant headlines of horrific news throughout the globe. Maybe the kind of movie people needed to see was a children's movie. Walt Disney's Bambi was a top-grossing movie of the decade. As of 1942, the worldwide gross for the film is $268 million. Next, we have the period of poodle skirts, Elvis Presley, and abstract expressionism. And the #1 grossing movie for this decade is another animal personification movie by Walt Disney, Lady and the Tramp, which came out in 1955, made over $36 million in the US alone. I mean, who can refuse to watch a movie with two super cute dogs sharing noodles? Now we have the 1960s, the period of movements and youth revolt. So which film tops the list? The Sound of Music, which made its debut in 1965 starring Julie Andrews. It grossed over $286 million worldwide. The Hills were definitely alive with that sound of that. Next, we have the decade of peace and love, the 70s. And the top grossing movie of this decade beat out some legendary movies including Jaws, The Exorcist, and Grease. That's right, Star Wars in 1977 beat out all those classic films. Starring Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, the outer space sci-fi movie rocked so many worlds and still is to this day. So it's no surprise that by the end of 1977, it had already grossed over $195 million in the US alone. Now we're on my favorite decade, the 1980s. Now this next movie beat out two Star Wars movies, Return of the Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back. Can't guess what classic film did this? It's the 1982 family sci-fi film, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. By the end of the year, it was already over $313 million. We've gone through so many decades and so many classic films, but we're finally in the decade I was born in. Yay! The 1990s. And we all know this next movie is pretty much no surprise that it's the highest grossing movie of the decade, was the 1997 romantic tragedy Titanic, starring Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. After only a few months after its debut, the film had already grossed over $978 million worldwide, not including the US. That just blows my mind. Next, we have the Millennium Years. The highest grossing film for the start of 2000s was Avatar in 2009. Has anybody else noticed that sci-fi movies are usually the top grossing movies? Avatar, starring Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana, made over $77 million its opening week in the US alone. Now, I know we're barely in 2015, but so far the top grossing movie of this decade is the 2012 hit Marvel's The Avengers, starring everyone. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, and Scarlett Johansson. See, I told you, everybody. Its opening weekend alone in the US, it made over $207 million. That's just crazy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Denise Salcedo for A-List. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and tweet us at MCBN TV. What is your favorite movie of this decade?